My name is Saubhagya, roll number 19 BME 0921. Actually, I stay in Dubai, and today there's going to be some kind of electrical maintenance in my building. So maybe I might get disconnected towards the end. So can you mark me present? That'd be
Okay,
possible.
I will.
Thank you so
No
much.
issues. Can you see the slide, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so previous day, I guess we had covered up to thermophore catalytic cracking process. Uh, okay, so we'll start today with the thermal cracking process. As the name itself suggests that it is the cracking is done on the basis of higher temperature. Since here we are not using any sort of catalyst and all, and obviously to crack down your heavier petroleum components, the temperature requirement is also significantly on the higher side. So there is a chance of coking. So that is why nowadays this thermal cracking are not actually preferred in the petroleum industry. So cracking is definitely, you have by this time you have already know, cracking is a petrochemical refining process where heavy molecular weight hydrocarbons are broken into smaller hydrocarbons by the application of heat and pressure with or without catalyst to derive variety of fuel products. The cracking is one of the principal ways to convert your crude oil into useful products such as motor gasoline, jet fuel and home heating oil. The term cracking used to describe any type of splitting of your molecule under the influence of high temperature catalyst and or in presence of solvent, such as in the destructive distillation or pyrolysis, where like your higher molecular component has been broken down to here you can see pentane, and this is so like what is this that if it is like C11, what do we call it? So up to C10 we call it as decane. So C11, what do we call it? Yeah, hello. Up to after C11. So what do we call that chemical if it is like beyond C11? So like pentane, hexane, heptane, octane, nonane, decane, and C11 components, what do we call it? We have this name, right? I'm not being able to remember the name at this point of time. So, but you can see from the breaking itself, you are actually producing ethene by, let's say, olefin product. Here you can see, but here you are actually producing some paraffinic hydrocarbon. So similarly, like for like application of heat, this type of components can also be produced, which is nothing other than the octane. And also you are producing octene, which is the unsaturated counterpart of it, counterpart of your octane. So what is this for C11? What do we call it? Like
Sir,
up
undecane.
undecane. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Thank you. Yeah, so then comes this catalytic cracking. Obviously, for highly heat sensitive, your like high molecular weight paraffin fragments are like heat sensitive high molecular weight paraffin like fragments. When the temperature exceeds between exceed above 400 degrees centigrade, the molecules of CnH2n, like N ranges between from and between 25, which can be easily split into two almost in the middle, resulting in one saturated molecules and the other one is unsaturated molecules. All the cracking reaction and ultimately give rise to coke and hydrogen formation. But the problem is that with thermal cracking, since the temperature requirement is a little bit on the higher side, and also you're not using any catalyst, so this coke formation, chances of coke formation is even greater. The above reaction for most foremost and conclusive at moderate temperatures around 400 degrees centigrade, but fragmentation continues with increasing temperature, giving rise to more simple product and occasionally complex product. But you see that let's say if I break my components into octane or octene, so this is not going to give me any special benefit. So what we have to do, like other than breaking it, let's say from C16, if I break it to octane and octene, but let's say if I want to produce more valuable products, I need to lower down my carbon numbers, or in order to like have more shorter chain hydrocarbons, we need to increase the temperature even higher. But if I do that, then obviously there is a chance of further breakage. So above reaction is foremost conclusive at moderate temperature around 400 degrees centigrade, but fragmentation continues with increasing temperature, giving rise to often more simple products and occasionally complex compound. A paraffin of lesser molecular order cracking can be illustrated as like C12, it is getting broken down into C6 into C6, and C6 you can actually break it down into C4 or C3. By a combination of all of these things you can actually produce, either you can produce C4 based product, also C3 products plus C2 products is also possible if you heat it up in a appropriate temperature. But for thermal cracking process, since we are not using like any type of catalyst, so the temperature is little bit on the higher side. So thermal cracking in a refinery process which heats up your product up to 800 degrees centigrade, pressure is approximately 700 kPa is used. So normal atmosphere is 101 kPa, so 700 kPa is a little bit on the higher side. Are used to break down, rearrange and combine your hydrocarbon molecules. Thermal cracking process was first developed in 1913. However, this process produced a lot of solid or unwanted coke. Distillate fuel and heavy oils were heated under pressure in large drums until they cracked into smaller, which is like smaller hydrocarbons, which is more valuable, more useful, into smaller hydrocarbons with better anti-knock properties. So you see, whenever we break down we do a cracking operation, we are always talking about this knocking tendency. So today, I guess, I don't know whether I'll be able to entirely complete this part. We have to also talk about steam cracking. So in the next class itself, we'll talk about this octane number, cetane number, and those properties of gasoline. But cetane number is actually for diesel, and octane number actually represents how good your gasoline is. So let me just further go forward. The cracking process allows the production of lighter products such as LPG, gasoline from heavier crude oil distillation fractions such as gas oil as well as residues. Thermal cracking is used to upgrade very heavy fractions or to produce light fraction distillates, burner oils or petroleum coke. So as a product of this, petroleum coke is also produced. Two extremes of thermal cracking is high temperature process between let's say 700 to 900 degrees centigrade or even more. It since you are going up to that level, so that is why it is producing ethylene and other feedstock for the petrochemical industry. But since I have already told you, in this type of cracking, whether it is catalytic cracking or thermal cracking, we do not have too much of control over this, like exactly what products we are going to be producing. We may have an idea that okay, we might produce like C2 range or C3 range, but that is not always. It is also not certain that how much C2 we are like saturated hydrocarbons we are going to produce, how much amount of unsaturated hydrocarbons that we are going to produce. So that also, like you cannot be pretty much sure. So thermal cracking, catalytic cracking, steam cracking. So this for these three types of cracking, you are not sure whether you are only be going to be able to produce like saturated hydrocarbon. Obviously, unsaturated hydrocarbon production is also possible, but let's say for your steam cracking operation, producing unsaturated hydrocarbons is actually very useful, because you can further utilize these materials as a petrochemical industry feedstock, like like propylene, ethylene, butylene. So you can further process it to make a lot of valuable petrochemical products like HDP, LLDP, polypropylene, polybutadiene, styrene. So those things you can actually produce out of it. So let me just move forward with this. So one case is that, one extreme is that at higher temperature, which is beyond 700, between 750 to 900 degrees centigrade or more, it produces ethylene, the other feedstock for your petroleum industry. Other than ethylene, it produces butylene and propylene also. The middle temperature, look, a milder temperature and delayed cooking. So under right condition, valuable needle coke is actually produce a highly crystalline petroleum coke used for the production of electrodes in metal industries. So like other than like your petrochemical like feedstock like propylene, ethylene, some amount of this also you can produce, some amount of alkane products also you can produce, but using this high temperature process, you will obviously come up with some needle coke, which is like valuable for your making electrodes in the metal industry. So the second stage is that, okay, this is the one extreme. Okay, you see here at by increasing the cracking temperature, this is actually different types of thermal cracking operation only, and depending on your cracking temperature, how you can produce different types of product, whether you are going to produce hydrogen, whether you are going to produce gas, whether you are going to produce gasoline, whether you are going to produce unsaturated. So that is going to be determined by what temperature, what cracking temperature you are running your operation. So at between 425 to 600, 460 degrees centigrade, we are only considered about lowering down the viscosity of your fuel oil. So you break it down to smaller like hydrocarbons, so that your viscosity of your fuel oil goes down. Then between 460 to 520 degrees centigrade, you start your thermal cracking. Here you can produce gasoline, like gas means like LPG, gasoline, tar oils and circulating oils. Beyond 520 to 600 degrees centigrade, within that range, you start to form more and more coke. So low temperature cooking. So here you are producing gasoline, like LPG gas, gasoline plus soft coke you can produce. Beyond this 600 degree to 800 degree centigrade, you are not going to be able to produce any more gasoline. So gasoline production is out of question. So now you will only be able to produce this gaseous product, maybe a little bit of LPG, and mostly unsaturated like ethylene, propylene, butylene you can produce. Then if you go beyond 800 degrees centigrade, so that is high temperature cooking. So not even you will have not even like unsaturated like ethylene and propylene, you will directly start producing aromatic products plus gas, and obviously production of your coke is also going to be on the higher side. And beyond 1000 degrees centigrade, your entire like feedstock is start to thermally decompose, and you will start to produce either H2 like hydrogen gas and carbon black, which is like carbon black, although it can be used for multiple purpose, but obviously it is not as useful like your gasoline based products. So beyond 1000 degree, your crude oil, whatever feed that you have given, like heavy vacuum gas oil, light vacuum gas oil, it will start to decompose, thermally decompose. So like based on your cracking temperature, nature of the operation, and these are the some of the products that you can actually produce. So if I ask in your examination that, let's say, give me a let's if I want to produce only gas and unsaturated, which temperature range should my thermal cracking unit should operate? I guess by learning this particular table, you should be able to answer it. Okay. So like this table is like very important. It actually talks about like its dependency of your cracking temperature on nature of operation, plus your cracking temperature is also going to determine what type of products you are going to produce from your cracking unit. Okay, these are some of the advantages and disadvantages. This is a very common question that comes in the examination. So like advantages of catalytic cracking over thermal cracking are as follows. Catalytic cracking takes place at a lower temperature and lower pressures because we are also using catalyst. So the catalyst actually have the capability to lower down the operating of the cracking temperature. So catalytic cracking takes place at a lower temperature and pressure as compared to that of thermal cracking. Catalytic cracking yields higher quantity of branch chain unsaturates and aromatic hydrocarbon compared to thermal cracking. Thermal cracking, you have more chances of coke formation. Catalytic cracking is better better controlled process more than thermal cracking. So like obviously it is true because the reaction time in catalytic cracking is also very small, so chances of coke deposition is less. Like it's a much better controlled operation, so proper circulation of your catalyst feed, your product, everything is goes in a much more systematic way. So obviously its performance is going to be much better and it is much well controlled process. Then comes in terms of petrol production. So petrol obtained by catalytic cracking has lesser sulfur. So like if you are producing gasoline, petrol is nothing but gasoline only, so other name of gasoline is petrol. So by catalytic cracking there is a chance, for using thermal cracking there is a chance that your feed may contain some amount of sulfurous component, but using catalytic cracking that chance is very less. And one of the disadvantages of catalytic cracking, incomplete conversion of your fuel coking on the catalyst leads to deactivation. Since like your reaction time is so small, so you cannot expect the complete conversion of your feedstock because your reaction time or the residence time within the reactor is very small, and obviously time to time you have to regenerate your catalyst, since because of this coke deposition your catalyst activity goes down. So this is about different types of advantages and disadvantages of catalytic cracking over thermal cracking. So like what are the properties of your crack product? Like boiling point, pour point, viscosity, obviously in your crack product is going to go down. Sulfur in crack product increases like if you are dealing with heavier fraction, although like much of it escape in the form of hydrogen sulfides because during catalytic cracking process you are breaking down heavier petroleum fractions. So during this process there is a chance that you also produce some amount of hydrogen. So hydrogen will actually react with your sulfur and form hydrogen sulfide and it can escape. So other than that, characterization factor which I have talked in the first chapter actually decreases. In the first module we talked about characteristic factor, how by looking into characteristic factor we can determine that whether my crude is aromatic, paraffinic or naphthenic. So those criteria. So in terms of this, your characterization factor actually decreases. Immense utility of your refinery operation, octane number increases, obviously lower molecular weight hydrocarbons you are producing. Additives like tetraethyl or like methyl lead are extensively used to blend with gasoline to boost its octane number normally, but the problem is that because of this lead poisoning, now this tetraethyl, either this TEL, which is this tetraethyl lead, or like methyl tetramethyl lead are no longer used. Now they have moved on to this methyl tertiary butyl ether or ethyl tertiary butyl ether. These are the some of the octane booster that industry generally uses. But another problem with this crack product, that's when it is stored for a longer period of time, they go detrimental changes and like impurities get sedimented. And obviously since your product has a lot of unsaturated, so unsaturated components get oxidized during the storage to form undesired oxidation product, like gum formation can take place, which is normally can be avoided by adding antioxidants and during the storage, this impurities may sediment. When discharged, it should be free from impurities which induce intensive choking, because if your impurities or the sediment remains inside your gasoline product, obviously it can choke your internal combustion engine. So that has to be properly removed before you can utilize your cracked product as a fuel to any engine. So that is this part. Up to this part is okay. So up to this properties of your cracked material is done and dusted. Now the second this part is like very important. This is not only important from your petroleum refinery viewpoint, but is also important from in the context of my petrochemical industry, since this steam cracking process is actually the process which produces large amount of unsaturated products, which is the base feedstock for your petrochemical industries like ethylene, propylene, butylene. So steam cracking is a petrochemical process in which unsaturated hydrocarbons are broken down into smaller often unsaturated hydrocarbons. It is the principal industrial method for producing lighter alkenes. Alkenes is obviously unsaturated, commonly known as olefins, including ethene, ethylene, propylene. It can produce ethylene and propylene at the most important chemical feedstock, but due to their relatively high reactivity, means unsaturated components tend to react with each other, so chances of gum formations are also there. But obviously the chances of polymerization, this is much more easier to polymerize due to their relatively high activities. Only very limited amount of olefins exist in natural gases and crude oil. Thus they must be produced by cracking process like steam cracking. Most C4 olefins are obtained from catalytic cracking and less than 10% from steam cracking. All olefins are thermodynamically unstable with respect to H2 and with respect to H2 and graphite. Distribution of desired H2 product is controlled by regulating the kinetic parameters. So let me just move on to the flow diagram of this steam cracking unit. As you can see, the feedstock basically can come from two separate segments. One is this natural gas. So natural gas, what it does contain, it mostly contains either your methane, or it can contain your ethane, propane, butane. So like all of this mixture it can contain. So you can actually directly send this natural gas after doing a little bit of treatment into this steam cracker, which is nothing but a high temperature furnace. And other than this, through this petroleum refinery also, what are the things you can directly send it to this steam cracker is naphtha that you produce from your this unit, from your distillation unit, the naphtha that you produce, and the gas oil that you produce from your vacuum distillation unit, other than some cracked product that you produce from your cracking unit also, you can directly send it there. What happens is, like, at this, inside this, there is like a tubular furnace through which at a very high temperature your feed is going to pass through, and obviously under high temperature your feed is going to start to crack. But for this heating up this reactor, or let's say to prevent coking inside your let's say in this tubular furnace, because here I have already told you this naphtha and gas oil also in some cases are like, there is a chance that it can deposit coke on the tube surface, the inside of your furnace. So what can happen, it can actually choke the entire pipeline, and if the pipeline gets choked and you are not careful, so what can happen, at very high temperature your entire steam cracker can explode. So in order to prevent that, that is why we add steam. So steam, you see that that is actually H2 only. So coke is what, carbon. So carbon plus H2, what it produces, it produces synthesis gas, which is carbon monoxide plus H2, isn't it? So like C plus H2O gets converted into CO plus H2. So by doing that, we are actually preventing my like coke deposition within my steam cracker unit. So then after that, like there are like several separations we have to actually go through to get my ethylene, propylene, and butylene also it can produce. And other than that, you can also produce like products like benzene, toluene, xylene. So those things also you can produce like further processing your feedstock in petrochemical industry. From benzene you can produce polystyrene, polyurethane, nylon, and from propylene you can produce polyol, epoxy resin, polypropylene glycol. From ethylene glycol you can produce HDP, LLDP, polyester, PVC. So like so many value added product you can actually produce by utilizing this steam cracking unit. So steam cracking unit is not only important with respect to my petroleum refinery, but it is also very much helpful. Like maybe the heartbeat of my petrochemical plant is this steam cracking or naphtha cracking unit. So to give you a little bit more idea on that, let me just show you a detailed uh, steam cracker, like after how the internals of your steam cracking unit actually looks like. So let me just go back to some book. Okay, just a minute, hold on for a moment. Although this steam cracking is not that much important with respect to my like petroleum refinery itself, but it is like a very important with respect to any petrochemical plant. Just share this. Yeah. Just give me 1 minute. Yes, okay. Now let me just share the slide with you. So can you see the page, this book, that PDF that I'm sharing, page number 106? Can you people see it?
Yes, sir. It's a bit small. If you can zoom it, would be
Okay.
good.
Yeah, okay. I'm just enlarging it. No, this much is not possible. So this is nothing but, so this the steam cracker that I have talked about. There they were using a little bit of methane, ethane also. Here they are only like processing using this naphtha. So that we produced in our atmospheric distillation unit. As you can see, some naphtha that has been produced from your atmospheric distillation unit or by some cracking processes. You can actually store it somewhere. Then you can pump it inside this furnace. So that is this steam cracker that we are talking about. Here from the steam drum, steam is coming. So you can see this like zigzag line. This is nothing but a like tubular furnace. Like within this tubes, actually your steam and your like your naphtha is flowing through. Because we are using steam, so that is how we can actually remove the carbon deposits from this like if the coke deposits on the surface of this tube, inside this tube, so steam should be able to remove it. Then after the cracking is done, because now at that particular figure we have directly shown that directly ethylene, butylene, propylene, everything is separated. So that is not actually the case. So this is the integrated system through which actually your propane, butane, ethylene, propylene, butylene is going to be separated. So like the first stage is stabilizer section. So like if any lighter components are there, so that is going to be cooled down. So the heavier component actually will come down at the bottom, which is this fuel oil. Then this will pass through a lot of condensers, coolers, compressors. Then it will come and come to this second unit, which where also it is going to be further fractionated. Then absorber section will be there. For example, some amount of sulfurs may be present in your system, so that you don't want to let's say to come out of your system. So that absorber section is there. So after it passes through my absorber section, you send your H2 for your purification purpose. The remaining part actually comes to my demethanizer. So in this demethanizer, as the name itself suggests, it is going to remove methane from my feedstock. So I have cracked my naphtha. Now obviously it is not, I'm not sure that whether I am only being able to get my saturated hydrocarbon. Obviously some unsaturated hydrocarbons will also be present. So the first thing that we remove from that combination, like mixture of different types of petroleum fraction, is the methane, because methane is the lightest one. So methane, I have removed it in this demethanizer. So the remaining part is going to be containing like ethane, ethylene, propane, propylene, butane, butylene. So like in subsequent section, we will keep on removing one at a time. So then in the next part, next column, which is nothing but a distillation unit only. So this is this deethanizer. So deethanizer means ethane is going to be removed. So since the ethane is a little bit heavier, so ethane is basically a little bit lighter component. So ethane is going to be okay, yeah, just a minute. Okay, so ethane, you are actually removing the ethane here. Then this ethane, the top product is just a minute. Actually acetylene hydrogenator, ethylene. Okay, so like here you can see that since ethanizer, deethanizer means not only I am going to remove ethane, but maybe like C2 hydrocarbons, whether it is ethane, whether it is ethylene, everything is going to be removed from this stream. So the remaining stream, that the bottom product, is only going to contain propane, propylene, butane, butylene. So like the first stage, because methane, there is no like there is not such many unsaturated like your acetylene. Acetylene you can actually separate in some other units. So in this deethanizer, you will separate ethane and ethylene as a top product. So this is the lightest component, because the bottom product will contain propane and propylene, butane and butylene, which is the heavier. So that is why it will come down, like it will come out from the bottom of this distillation unit. So the top product, which contains my ethylene and ethylene, is moving here. then like acetylene hydrogenator, it will pass through. Then after that, it will enter this ethylene separator. From this ethylene separator, actually ethane is actually a little bit heavier compared to my ethylene. So ethylene will come out as the top product from this ethylene separator, and this ethane you can also recycle it back to this catalytic cracking, like not catalytic cracking, steam cracking unit for further breaking it down and producing more ethylene. So then comes this, after the ethanizer, we come to this depropanizer. So depropanizer, what it does, as the name suggests, it will remove C3 hydrocarbons. So both propylene and propane will be removed. So as you can see, the top product is coming out, which is this C3 hydrocarbon. It is entering into propylene separator, where similarly propylene is lighter component, that's why it is coming from the top. Propane is the heavier component, that is why it is coming at the bottom. Then the bottom part of this depropanizer, which will contain only now your heavier products, for example your butane and butylene, and like if some other or heavier components are there, so that also you can actually extract it from there. So then it is your bottom part is further moving this line, it is going to this debutanizer. So from this debutanizer, obviously you can produce butane. So it is coming to this debutanizer. So like C4 hydrocarbons are going to be removed, and the bottom product, like heavier, like whatever that is heavier than your C4 hydrocarbons, is going to be taken in this pyrolysis, like pyrolysis gasoline, or like it may also contain some amount of aromatics also. That also needs to be taken into account. So now in this debutanizer, we have separated my C4 hydrocarbon. Now follow this line. This line is moving to my butylene separator. So in butylene separator, similar to ethylene and propylene separator, butene is going to come from the top because it's lighter, and butane is going to come at the bottom since it's a heavier product. So propane and butane, which is nothing but my LPG only, my ethylene is a feedstock to make ethylene glycol, HDP, that is means higher density polyethylene, lower density polyethylene, linear low density polyethylene. Then my propylene, you can convert it into a propylene glycol, plus also you can actually convert and make polypropylene out of it. Butylene also have so many other application. Methane you can directly send it to as a fuel gas, so that option is also there. You can see this through this integrated flow diagram, how you are actually breaking down your naphtha products in this steam cracker unit. Why I am adding steam, what is the purpose of it. Then after several stages of stabilization, purification, we come to this demethanizer, where C1 hydrocarbons are removed, deethanizer C2 hydrocarbons are removed, depropanizer C3 hydrocarbons are removed, and debutanizer C4 hydrocarbons are removed. And separately we have ethylene, propylene, and butylene separator, where like butenes are separated, and we actually come up with all types of products, both saturated hydrocarbon, the other one is unsaturated hydrocarbon. So this is actually the holistic figure of your steam cracking unit. And this pyrolysis gasoline, it also contains some amount of aromatic hydrocarbons, because the aromatic hydrocarbon separation part, that has not been explained here, so you just consider that aromatics will be present in this pyrolysis gasoline. So this is the entire steam cracking unit and its flow diagram. So let me just move back to the slide itself, where like what are the parameters. Yeah, tell me.
Sir, like in the feed of this, like there should be two things, right? Like naphtha and natural gas.
So this is actually only taking into account naphtha and tube. So this is actually, I have taken this from a petrochemical book. So this book, actually they are talking about, it can have both, like here.
But it's having ethane, like ethane recycle is going.
Yeah, ethane recycle is going, yeah. Yeah,
but
that is
propane and butane.
No. Propane, butane, you can directly sell it as LPG, na? So why do you want to again crack it? So ethane doesn't have a direct application. So you go and just use it as a feed for your naphtha cracking unit, isn't it?
Yes.
Propane
Yes.
butane is nothing but LPG. LPG is expensive, na? LPG, if you sell it, you earn very good amount of money. So like from refinery point of view, they are always like thinking about like by selling which product they will earn more money. So lighter products, more money. So ethane, they cannot use it for too many purposes. So that's why, okay, let's say let's send it again and then break it down to ethylene, and from ethylene more valuable products they can actually produce. Yeah, so that is what it is. Okay, anything else? I hope that you have understood like step by step how everything is happening. So one may wonder that, okay, sir has not talked about aromatic products. So aromatic product is also produced, but you see that this aromatic product should be present in this pyrolysis gasoline part. So this will, you can further like process it using different types of distillation, and you can also separate those things out. Okay, so this is my steam cracking unit in detail. Let me just stop this and go back to the slide. Now, yeah, so this is the process condition for my steam cracking unit. Like, what are the parameters we need to be very much careful? So temperature, obviously, hydrocarbon chains preferentially cracked at the center of the molecules. With increasing temperature, cracking shift towards the end of the molecule, leading to larger quantities of preferred low molecular weight olefin. Reaction rate also increases with temperature, allowing shorter residence time. But increasing the temperature, I have already told you that if I increase the temperature way too much, so there is a chance that coke formation also can take place. And other than this temperature, reaction time is really very important in terms of my steam cracking or naphtha cracking. So like you want shorter residence time. Longer residence time you have, like more coke formation, more oligomerization. So those type of undesired secondary reactions can take place. So shorter residence time results in more olefin production. Longer residence time increases secondary reaction like coke formation and oligomerization that we do not want. So hydrocarbon partial pressure formation of low molecular weight products causes pressure to increase. Thus reaction is favored at low pressure. Steam is added to decrease the partial pressure of hydrocarbon and to minimize coke formation. So for this two purpose you can actually add this coke, and here they have actually like divided this steam cracking process into three stages. One is initiation, then followed by the propagation, and then comes this termination reaction. Now this is this ethane only. So ethane is breaking down into CH3 CH3 radical, and then further like it is reacting with ethane only, then one is forming methane, then this reaction, then it is further breaking down producing ethylene plus hydrogen plus then your hydrogen radical, what do you call it, radical, or like this H plus, I guess this is most probably actually one hydrogen, one electron is actually free in order to react with some hydrogen, because carbon has like, okay, so this is like H plus ion, you can consider it. No, not ion, I cannot call it. So what should I call it? I forgot in terms of this chemistry. Actually, if this extra electron is available, so what do we call it? This H?
Sir, I think free radical.
Free radical. Yeah. H free radical. Thank you. I forgot because not in touch with chemistry for a long time. So there is a general misconception there that chemical is all about chemistry, but we hardly study chemistry. We more are focused with mathematics and uh, physics. So this H plus free radical, then it reacts with ethane, it forms H2 plus this other free radical, which you can further like two reacts, and it produces this, which is nothing but my butane only. So C3, CH2, CH2, CH2. So that is butane only, and then after reacting this, ethane is also going to be produced. So like 3 stages. One is initiation, the second one is propagation, the last one is termination. So that is how the mechanism of your steam cracking unit actually is there. Okay, so process description. Okay, so process description I have already explained, so I don't think there is any need to go for this process. Okay, like let me just read through it. So hydrocarbon feed is heated with steam to 1050, like 1050 degrees centigrade, feed to copper chromium reactor tubes. Cracked products exit at this what should I call it, 850 degrees centigrade. So can anybody tell me like what does it say, that hydrocarbon is heated to 1050 degrees centigrade and fed to this reactor tube, but the cracked product exit at 850 degrees centigrade? Does it, do I get any information out of this reaction and this temperature? Product is exiting. I have not done any heat exchange here. Why product is exiting at a lower temperature?
Sir, residence time.
No, 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 no. Cracking reaction is a dash reaction.
Process.
Is a what? Is a dash reaction. What type of reaction is it?
Sir, endothermic.
Endothermic reaction, exactly, that's the answer. So cracked product is obviously, because cracking is an endothermic reaction, so it is actually lowering down the product temperature and are rapidly quenched to 300 degree, but 800 degree centigrade is also significantly high. So are rapidly quenched to 300 degree to prevent secondary reaction like coke formation and oligomerization. Then product is scrubbed to remove your H2S and CO2. So that I have explained in that chart. C3, C4 components are separated at low temperature fractional distillation. C4 must be separated by chemicals means, or like now they also use this fractional distillation only. So like this is the process description. I have explained it. I would suggest you to check the book I have referred today is this Uttam Roy Chaudhury's book on fundamentals of petroleum and petrochemical engineering. So that book I'll share with you, so you can have this look into this steam cracking unit operation. So this is okay. So I have already crossed my time. So now in the next class onwards, I'll talk about knocking, then octane number, because octane number we are always talking about anti-knocking, but not explaining octane number. So octane number will have to discuss a little bit more. Then that there are different types of octane number: research octane number, motor octane number. So subsequently we will discuss about that. One thing I have missed out, that is the hydrocracking, because I have talked about thermal cracking, catalytic, fluidized catalytic cracking, both moving and fixed bed. Steam cracking also I have covered, but I have not talked about the hydrocracking. So hydrocracking maybe I'll talk a little bit about, then I'll move on and talk about this thing. And talk about knocking, and then gasoline, like your octane number, motor octane number, this research octane number, those things we will discuss about in the next class. So first talk about, make me remember that I should not talk about the knocking first. I'll talk about this hydrocracking, and then I'll start with this like knocking, what is octane number, what is like different types of octane number, those things will be discussed later. Okay, thank you all for attending today's class. So tomorrow in the second half, I guess we have the class, right? Second half from 2 o'clock, we'll meet again. Thank you all for attending today's class.
Sir, what about the attendance?
Yeah, I'm posting it. Okay, I'm just posting it in the chat section. You just give your attendance there. I have posted. Just check it. Just go and submit there. Okay, thank you all. Okay.
Thank you, sir.